right when the dinosaur structure deck came out, right when it came out, that was my first invite, and I was playing competitively since like 2011.
Yeah.
It took years.
Okay, so this begs a really important question. Why one? Why one? If it's so polarizing, why even one at all? Why zero?
Well,
are you giving the people the chance to just a one-off sack? Draw,
because at the same time,
why are you giving people that option?
Because at the same time, I still can identify that control decks is still a viable strategy. And control decks need something.
And you're fine with that. You mean tell me you're gonna walk?
I do not like floodgate decks. Do not get it twisted. I hate floodgate decks. I hate when people can just summon Inspector Border and set 4. I can't stand that. But at the same time, I understand that it is a viable strategy, and some people play better, with those kind of strategies. Some people prefer that strategies. I prefer combo. I love to go wombo combo. I love to go crazy and things like that.
Yeah.
Other people like to take it a little bit slower. As I always say, if you're not speeding your deck up, you got to be slowing other decks down. That's just something that we're gonna have to deal with. Yeah, I want combo and control to both coexist together.
But I get that you said like you want the deck, the control style to exist. But like you said, you feel like it's so something. Like you lose when you see that floodgate. So if they play one because they have more than one and they draw it, and
the problem is
if you lose,
the problem.
How do you feel?
I'm not gonna feel good.
You just lost.
But the thing is, I'd rather it be like one off than every game. Like with Guru Control, they play there can be only one and all that stuff.
Yep.
And they play Gozen Match. If those two were to go to one, they're not going to be able to see all that. They're not going to see. I'm not going to just have to automatically anticipate every game. I'm not going to have to see it every single game.
But if you see it, you lose.
I mean,
you're willing to see that.
The problem is you're still playing. The thing is though, you're still playing against True Draco. You're still playing against Guru Control. So you're still going to end up siding back row hate cards for those things.
Yeah.
But if you don't see back row hate cards for it, and those cards are like limited or something, then you have a fighting chance. You have a little bit of a fighting chance if you don't see any back row removal. Or let's say you do draw back row removal, because how many times have we opened, let's say, a Twin Twisters or something, but our opponent has 4 set cards, and they flip a floodgate and we chain the Twin Twisters and target, but one of the other 2 cards was just either another copy of it or just another floodgate that they play that's at 3.
Right.
I feel like if you're a skill player, you can probably get around the one. It's like, it's just multiple.
In multiple to suffocate.
Especially take for
So-
example.
so when we say goes-
yeah. Why aren't Sky Strikers just losing all the time to play? Because it's a one.
Because
One of it. It's dealable. Yeah. You draw multiple.
That is true.
Sky Strikers can still deal with it.
Yeah.
That is true. So, floodgates, I guess we're all in agreement on that one and all that. So, last thing we want to talk about, guys, and that is just a healthy game state. What do we really consider a healthy game state? I think earlier you said when rogue decks can be able to just easily compete.
I think if you're a skilled player, and I think a healthy game state is when there's not these huge defined decks. There's always going to be defined a couple best decks, but I feel like a healthy game state is where I can feel good taking a rogue deck to a regional or YCS and have a good fighting chance. We saw before Silent Grades came out, before kind of everyone floods about it, the YCS Chicago was hugely diverse. Right. Going second, going first for grade, there were just massive amounts of rogue decks there. And, it was a really great time to be playing rogue. Because you kind of feel like you got your own thing.
Yeah, no.
That's true, but some people do also argue that, that it's not really a healthy game state if you have to play certain things in your rogue deck, like let's say the Zodiac engine back when, in your rogue deck for you to be able to compete, or nowadays the Danger engine to be able to compete, and things like that. Some people may not see that as being, a healthy, stable, just healthy format. Some people don't really see it as such when you feel like you're forced to play these certain cards, and they may not even be expensive. You know, it's just the need to have to include these in your deck to have a fighting chance against the higher tier decks.
I'm saying healthy format is a road deck where you don't have to play like meta engines like that. Yeah.
Meta
You can go
engines.
and win like
Right.
without having to play meta. You can play rogue like your own deck. Kind of like dinosaurs was back in Zodiac. Like
I love
it was
dinosaurs,
rogue, but you could still win.
Yeah, you got Lithus
You were
Admin, you got
still a player,
Danglong,
like,
and all
yeah.
that stuff. You didn't need to play, you know, Barrages and Tridents and Broad Bulls. You didn't need all that. You know, and it was pretty great. What about you?
Yes, I think to answer this question, and I think a lot of the viewers will come to agree, is the way you answer this question is hugely dependent on the perspective. You know, what kind of player are you, right? So these two guys, they're really competitive players, and me, I'm more of a casual player myself, and I don't necessarily see the scene, the Yu-Gi-Oh from eye to eye the same way they see it. So, from my standpoint, as a casual player, or more so of a casual player, I want to see interactions where both players will have multiple turns, multiple interactions. Basically, I'm saying you have decks that have vastly decreased power ceilings because, you know, when you have a deck that has a high power ceiling, regardless, you're going to have decks that promote unhealthy game states. Things like Chaos Card Dragons, where you know you don't have a fighting chance per se. There isn't a second turn for the other player. And from a competitive player's perspective, right? That may not be an unhealthy game state because it may be due to things like misplay. You know, things like just, deck building correctly, correct deck building. That's not something that a casual player is going to have the mindset of. So that's more my take on it. But I'm kind of curious to see what Daniel thinks about
I mean,
that from a competitive
you were also
standpoint.
saying how, you know, you believe a healthy game state, you know, is where either player can play.
Exactly.
To where, you know, you can play if you don't open a hand trap and your
I
opponent
shouldn't
has
have
like
to.
full combo.
I shouldn't be forced to. Right.
You know, to where it's just like if my opponent has a full combo and I have a hand trap, I can still play, kind of thing. To where, you know, as you said, just overall just lower the power ceiling of everything across the board to where if my opponent goes first,
Right.
I'm not automatically screwed if I didn't open a hand trap or if I didn't open an evenly matched or Pankratops or
Exactly, like
something like
it's,
that.
It's kind of like you with the floodgates, like you know you said with floodgates. It's almost as if you have to have that draw on that card. I don't want to be in a situation where if I didn't open right, I ain't winning. I want to be able to have interaction. I want to be able to determine what my opponent's playing. I want to be able to see in multiple turns how I'm gonna break their strategy down and understand their strategy and overcome it. But in certain game states and in certain situations where you know some of these decks promote crazy unhealthy game states, that'll never happen in the first place.
Crazy unhealthy. What do you define a crazy unhealthy game state?
I mean, you know, you ever watch Triff Gaming's videos or on 7-8 negates? And, you know, and if you did, you know, if you just the issue I have with that is if you never had the hand to deal with it, how are you ever gonna play through it? Is that fair? How are you
I
ever
mean,
gonna-
unless you open
right?
like spear mode.
So, like, yeah,
in some,
exactly it. You
in,
have-
in
unless you
some
open
board
spear mode.
states, even if you have the spear mode,
Exactly.
it still
Even
isn't
if,
enough.
Because like, some of the Chaos Card Dragon stuff is just, you know, crazy. Every card on the board is in the game. I mean, just maybe it's just the casual player, but like it just doesn't seem like that's just not a healthy game state. You know, I don't know. I'm not coming from a competitive player standpoint, but that's the way I see it.
I mean, even competitive players may
Right.
agree with you on that
Yeah, I
one.
mean, it's just unhealthy. And I'm not saying every deck has it. Obviously, not. I think a lot of people would argue that. Honestly, this format is not bad at all. Not a lot of people are saying this is one of the better formats, and that's because you know the diversity is better than what we've seen in the past. But it's just a select few and a select few specific strategies that promote these unhealthy game states. Where again, like you said, if you didn't draw something you needed to stop, you won't win the game.
And that kind of brings up another point because with the roguish decks, like let's say the Azathoth strategies, I feel like a lot of rogue decks don't even want to play that strategy, but I feel like they're forced to play that strategy when it comes to a deck like Thunder Dragon or a deck like Salamangreat that just have these insanely high consistencies and high power levels to where, you know, I don't want to play this, I want to play the deck how I want to play it, but
Yeah.
I have to play this because if I don't play something really degenerate against a tier 1 deck like Salamangreat or Striker or Thunder Dragons, I'm not going to have a good time. I'm not
totally
going to
get it.
last very long.
I get
I'm
it.
either going to get out-resourced or I'm just going to get bulldozed.
Exactly.
You know,
No,
I
totally
feel
agree.
like I'm just going to get blown out of the water. I know that. So I guess that also ties into what you said about just lowering the ceiling and the consistency of a lot of these other decks, so you don't have to feel like you're playing these degenerate strategies. Because as I said before, you know, in order to get the edge against these tier 1 decks, you have to be playing something unfair. You know, but in these cases, unfair is considered degenerate, to where you really are shutting your opponent down. But it feels like if you don't just absolutely shut your opponent down, then your opponent is going to beat you.
Exactly, especially with these tier 1 strategies.
You know, that's, you know, like the decks that make these like unbreakable boards, it's like if you have any sort of opening in that strategy, then it's almost like guaranteed to get exploited, and like it'll just get like just busted wide open. I feel like your opponent can just easily exploit that opening and just take advantage and just blow that stuff out of the water and just totally just beat you. So it's just like the fact that you feel like you have to, you know, have these super fortified, just really tight, you know, boards with absolutely just no way to break it. It's like, unless you have spear mode, you're not winning the game. Just period, point blank. What was that? One of the guys ended up telling me a couple weeks ago. It's like I keep playing and I keep comboing and set up a state to the point to where I essentially have to force my opponent into submission, kind of thing. And you know, and it sucks. You know, it really sucks that it has to be that way. But it's just the fact of the matter is, if you don't, your opponent is definitely going to just take the swing, and you know, you're gonna get smashed easy.
I totally get it. And you know, at the very beginning of the discussion, you talked about combo decks and even control decks being able to go full off on their combo with what, one card? And what is a rogue deck going to do against that kind of deck, which can't capitalize necessarily on some of those mistakes and some of those?
And that's the thing, you know, rogue decks especially, they're you know, making misplays or bricking or just not being as consistent is a lot less forgiving with those decks. And it's like you have to, you know, in order to make up for the lack of consistency, or in order to make up for the fragileness, you have to like play something that more than makes up for it. You have to play something that's like really strong, that just really boosts the power ceiling and all that stuff. It's like when Firewall Dragon was legal, you know, it could take decks that are like tier 5 and just like give it the capabilities and the power ceiling of a tier 1 deck. And you know, granted, a lot of people thought it was degenerate, but you can't deny that it took tier 5 decks and put it up on par with tier 1 decks in a way to where it's just like it really closed the gap between rogue and meta. And that's what I love. I love the gap between rogue and meta being, you know, closed up. But my fear is when you hit things like the Azathoth rank up again, and I know they're degenerate, I know the dangers can be pretty insane at times, but you know, all these things are just helping out rogue decks so much to where they can actually kind of, you know, they can kind of keep up, but I feel like when you hit the dangers and you hit the Azathoth and all that stuff, you know, the rogue is just going to go lower and lower, and this gap is just going to get really wide, because the broken tier 1 decks will be broken with or without those cards, period. They will be broken with or without them. But the rogue decks really suffer a lot harder than the meta decks do. And, you know, they have less options to be essentially, you know, use things to facilitate the lack of consistency they have, or the lack of power ceiling they have. You know, they have something to give it to them, you know. Like, prime example, Burning Abyss, they have a lot of consistency, but their power ceiling isn't really there. You know, slap in the Azathoth engine, and you know, that makes up for the power ceiling to where you can just throwing Rusty and throwing a rank up magic, and you throw in a Redoer and an Azathoth, and then hey, I got the consistency and I have the power ceiling to keep up with Salamang Rate. So at this point, it's anybody's game kind of thing. You know, it's degenerate, I know, but at the same time, it's just like, if you don't have that, what else do you really have I'm always going to be on the side of, having road decks be as competitive as possible on, and as being as close to being on par with meta decks as possible. Because as you said, you want to be able to take your, like any road deck, and be able to actually compete and have, nearly as equal a shot as doing well as the meta deck. And that's what we all want, because I love road decks. I love to play road decks. I have meta decks, but I don't even choose to play them because they're just not fun for me. They're not challenging enough for me. So, and to wrap things up, my opinion of, what a healthy game, state is, a healthy format for me, is if you can both go first and second. If I feel like I can't go second in a format, then I feel like it's not in a healthy game state. Again, the beginning of the format was great. You could, going first and going second was like neck and neck. Going second was just as viable as going first. It was beautiful. But, Salmon Grades come out, then it kinda made it to where you had to kinda go first, but it wasn't too terrible. You had the hand traps and you had the counter traps and all that. But then when people started implementing Artifact Sanctum into it and Artifact Scythe, then you really couldn't go second. You couldn't afford it. It was too big of a risk. Because the Salmon Grade matchup was everywhere. And not only that, but even outside of Salmon Grades, you had decks like Trickstars and other decks just playing this engine because it's just an easy win. If you can lock out the extra deck, then my opponent's turn is skipped, and I can just go draw and just go for a game, because it's essentially like just giving yourself an extra turn for no reason. But that's besides the point. I want to return to a time to where I can just as easily go second. I can confidently play a deck to go second, like I would just wanting to go first. I want to be able to just, blind second against my opponent with a deck like Infinity Tracks and be fine, So that's just my take on it. So any of you guys got any final thoughts?
I think we covered a lot of cards. I think we covered just about everything. The only thing I would say is miscellaneous source. He's
the resident dino player.
And for me, put Colossus to 1 just so we can put Brilliant Fusion right back to 3. Right back to 3.
Yeah.
Brilliant Fusion did nothing wrong.
I think we covered just about everything. The only thing I have to say is like the whole concept with the power, like the power difference between the rogue and the meta decks is what happens when you bring the really strong cards to the rogue strategies, and then the meta strategies start abusing those really hot cards. Kind of like what we're seeing with Artifact Engine. Sometimes I feel like some of these rogue strategies need to adopt the Artifact Engine just to keep on par with the other, top tier strategies. So, like, what do you think about the fact that some of these rogue strategies are using these really nice, really high-powered cards, but are being abused by the top tier cards? So how do you narrow that gap without making the top tier decks abuse those cards to go even farther?
And that's a problem, because the thing is, those really high-powered cards are so generic.
Yeah,
So the problem is they're really generic, and nearly any deck can access them.
there's top tier decks.
Any deck can access Rusty Bardiche, and even if your deck doesn't play Dark Monsters, you can just link 2 monsters into Underclock Taker or Space Insulator, and then just proceed to make Rusty that way, just like that. Any control deck can just play Artifact Sanctum and 3 copies of Trap Track and things like that. And a lot of people want these things gone, but again, my biggest fear is, hitting things like these, you don't run into these problems anymore, but then the rogue decks really struggle a lot more than the meta decks do, because again, meta decks are going to do their thing with or without those cards anyway.
They're gonna do it regardless.
And I don't know. That's just.
So do you think the answer is like specific support for the rogue strategies, or just leave the specific cards to those tier 1, like think Skystrikers and Engage versus like a rogue strategy getting specific support for that archetype?
Well, the thing is, I feel like we're at the point to where I feel like Konami's finally making an effort to shrink the ban list, because the ban list is huge. I feel like I understand your point about not wanting to give every single lower archetype just insanely good cards to keep up with the meta, because then that would just increase the power ceiling across the board, and then everything would be insane and all that stuff. But if we were to try and lower the power ceiling of almost every deck, you would have to put a lot of cards on the ban list.
Yeah, no, I totally understand.
You know, that's a lot of cards.
It would.
This is like, so it's like, what do you do? You know, I don't know what we can do here. I don't know what we can do to hard reset a format, because I feel like with the introduction of cards like Firewall, it made irreversible damage. It just severely sped up a lot of things, and then that just required other control decks to up the ante and step up their game. And you know, now they have like a lot of really, really broken stuff going for them. Combo decks have continuously been getting hit, but the control decks are still up here. You know, it's about time that control decks started receiving some checks so they can kind of get just leveled just a little bit. You know, just so they can cool down a little bit, because they're getting a little. They're starting to choke people out of the game. Like when you're playing against those decks, it really feels like you're being choked out of the game. You know, unlike decks like Sky Strikers, I mean, they just choke you out of the game from sheer card advantage, but that's a whole different story. But, you know, when you got hand traps here, hand traps there, a floodgate here, a negate here to protect this floodgate, and all this stuff, it feels like you literally cannot do anything. You know, and it just feels it feels really discouraging, and it feels really effortless, too.
It does.
You know, because it's just like, it literally feels like you just open your hand and just play it on the board and just pass turn. I don't know, but
yeah, no, I think it's definitely interesting. So maybe we'll leave it up to you guys in the comment section to see what you guys think about it.
And I know this is a very lengthy discussion, but this is something that, you know, that I feel like is good to talk about these things in depth and try to get a better idea of where we're all coming from. You know, why do we want cards like Darkness Metal hit? You know, why do we want cards like Dangerous hit? And you know, we want these cards hit. You know, why is that? You know, do you think maybe it's something else that makes things look really, really strong? Like say, like I said before, the Dangers, you know, starting things off, and then the Baby Dragons take over, and then the Sky Blaster, and then the Sea-Huges and all that stuff. So it makes the Dangers, seem like really, really, really insane. When it's just like, you know, Dangers are only part of the formula, and then you've got all the other stuff kind of blended and mixed in there. You know, sometimes, you know, we just got to look at other things surrounding these cards and make it seem like, okay, so if this card wasn't a part of the equation, like, okay, let's say the Thunder part of decks got hit, and let's say the Orcus engine managed to get hit. Could we possibly say that Dangers were still an issue?
Yeah,
you know, now of course, Cherubini is obviously going to be a topic of discussion, but you know, because obviously Danger Orcus and Danger Thunder Dragons are like the best decks that can abuse the Dangers. But if you can take the decks out of the equation that can abuse Dangers to the maximum, you know, can you really see Dangers as like being like this just absolutely just insane force? You know what I mean? Can you really see that? You know, Danger Blue Eyes. Would you still think that's a problem? You know, Danger Blue Eyes, or you know, Danger Wind-Ups or some stuff like that.
Crazy,
yeah, it's just like, you know, are Dangers really that strong, or is it just the decks it's going in?
Yeah.
Because I honestly feel like the decks that it's going in were already really exploitable to begin with. And all that, but that's just my take on that. But again, it's good to have different perspectives and look at different things and things like that. So again, guys, I'm sorry for the lengthy freaking discussion, but I hope y'all enjoyed it. You know, this is a little bit different. Let me know if you guys want something more like this in the future, because I enjoy, you know, having a, you know, multiple person sit down other than just me doing the talking. So
no, that's it. Yeah,
that's it.
I think that's everything.
All right, guys. Thank you guys very much for watching. This is J Money, and what's it? Team Rogue with Spice, right? I wonder if I'm gonna actually make a team like that. Maybe. This is J Money. I am signing out. Oops.